Thank you very much, Fabien. So I am afraid that my speech will be the continuation of what you heard until now today, so you should not be surprised that much. Digitalization is challenging the traditional way of doing business, and this also applies to the financial services, obviously. Technical innovations have been applied to the financial industry. With the mobile phone today, we can use the apps to access to mobile banking. We can use the NFC feature in order to make contactless payment, and we can also use the camera to read QR codes and initiate payments through the mobile. New generation of digital native customers expect financial services to be of the same speed and convenience as other digital services. With digital goods and services, there is no longer a need to have a physical presence, such as a marketplace or a branch network. With just one website, a provider can reach customers in the entire world. And on digital marketplaces, we can see sellers and buyers starting finding each other directly without the need for traditional intermediaries. If it was ever needed, we have definitely the proof that the customers do not belong to anyone. Now, where does the European financial industry stand in this digitalizing world? The ways to originate, distribute, and represent financial products used to be intermediation-based, branch-based, and paper-based. All these are affected heavily by digitalization. Most banks are offering by now access to mobile banking. Many banks are reducing their branch networks as less and less customers come to visit. The more profound effect is on intermediation. For example, peer-to-peer lending via digital marketplaces represent a new channel for credit provision to startups and more established SMEs. Moreover, capital can be attracted over crowdfunding sites. So to the answer to my own question, where does the European financial industry stand? I would say that there will continue to be a demand for financial services, but the dominant providers of the last century might no longer exist by the next decade. Digitalization is not just changing the structure, but it's even affecting, through disintermediation, the raison d'être of the financial industry. However, digital transformation offers more opportunities than threat. It's inevitable, and an innovative attitude has no chance of success. The traditional style of banking is being challenged. New players are entering in the market. Some are digital only, others are mobile only. Others choose a different business model focused at the most profitable parts of banking. And there are new entrants that do not want to become a bank in the regulatory sense, but rather focus on delivering financial services based on mastering technology and shaping the user experience. Let me just illustrate with the example of the providers of payment initiation services. With these services, customers can conveniently and securely pay from an existing payment account at their own bank without the need for having a payment card. These services and new type of providers have developed mostly because adequate payment services were not always provided by traditional banks. Payment initiation services were acknowledged in the revised Payment Service Directive PSD2. Offering these services does require an authorization as payment service provider, but does not require a contract with a bank. If the customer has given its consent to the provider, the bank cannot deny access. This new payment service should take the full advantage of the singleness of the SEPA area, its integrity and the concept of interoperability without reintroducing fragmentation. Moreover, a bank that has not succeeded to provide suitable alternatives should not have the mindset of trying to block innovation. In fact, already after the adoption of the PSD2, members of the RPB voiced the concern that legal requirement alone would not be sufficient for the efficient and integrated provision of services. To remain attractive for their customers, banks should cooperate with new providers and allow these innovative payment solutions to succeed. A further opportunity to remain attractive and competitive is to start offering instant payments. As you may recall, the ECB and the Eurosystem in general pushed hard for this modernization. The LPB then set the wheels in motion, leading to the development of the ACT instant scheme by the European Payment Council. To support wide reachability, the ECB has extended its target services to include instant payment, called TIPS, which will start in November this year, so in a few weeks from now. All banks can benefit from this opportunity and are encouraged to do so as early as possible. Instant payment allows banks to capitalize on their customer base and thus to regain a competitive edge towards other providers, be they European or global. TIPS in particular can be the way forward in addressing the lack of a European payment scheme if complemented by user-friendly and user payment solutions. The arrival of new service providers call for new forms of cooperation between traditional banks and new banks, but also between traditional banks and non-banks, such as many of the third-party providers. In some cases, authorized payment services providers compete directly with the banks for the favor of the customers. A well-known area is cross-currency payment, where specialized providers are able to offer services at better conditions. These providers depend on the banks for matters like the execution and the clearing and settlement of their client payments. And this extra layer increases the cost and obviously decreases also the speed of the money transfers. Financial services are key for the economy, regardless of the type of the provider that is offering them. And this brings me to how a new partnership for growth in Europe could be also formed between central banks and fintech. The RPB invited the future of European fintech to join, in anticipation of the formalization of their alliance. This will greatly allow to have diversity in the discussion and will undoubtedly lead to an even better choices for the retail payment strategy. Second, the increasing role of non-banks in the payment services may call for revision of the access to payment systems. This access has been often limited to credit institutions, which for long have been the only natural partners of central banks. As you probably know, some central banks have good and positive experience in opening up to other providers than credit providers. We may also, at the Eurosystem, have to consider whether a wide public interest justify an action in that direction to offer broader access to our platforms, such as Target 2. Digitalization is definitely changing the structure of the financial service industry and even challenging the traditional role of banks as intermediaries. New providers are capable of offering services that meet the needs of the digitalized economy. Nevertheless, I would like to encourage the European payment industry to embrace the opportunities for innovation and thereby increased productivity in Europe. With payment initiation services and with instant payment supported by TIPS, European banks are being able to offer innovative services and payment solutions. The RPB recommendations reflect the market needs as established by all stakeholders, and all banks are advised to take them into account. I'm personally convinced that in many areas, like instant payment, Europe is well advanced, and the mindset should be that of promoting these innovative payment instruments as well as the European autonomy. Not in the sense of protectionism, but rather in the sense of ensuring independence and protecting European values, such as with regard to data protection. Together, fintech companies, central bank, and forward-looking banks can form a modern partnership for growth in Europe by ensuring that Europe's retail payment system, which is the foundation for the European economy, is functioning well, and it's made fit for the challenges and demanding world in the context of the ongoing digitalization. The ECB stands ready to support this type of new partnership, and we are in many, many areas already active in that in that space. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that I was not too long before your coffee break.